after my second son was born, I remember feeling broken, and I didn't know why. But there was one night in particular when things felt really heavy. It was 2 a.m. I was sitting on the bathroom floor, my back against the wall, tears streaming down my face. And all I can think about in that moment is, what would my mother do? Because my mom is Superwoman, and I don't use that term loosely. She's a blur of motion, cooking, cleaning, solving problems that no one even knew existed. And her Superwoman cape never has a wrinkle in it, because as a Black woman in America, she knew it couldn't have one. And she made sure I knew that too. Growing up, she taught me to be proud of my identity, even if other people were intimidated. She taught me how to navigate spaces where I would be the only. And she made sure I knew that I was going to have to work twice as hard just to be seen as equal. But then there were lessons I learned by watching her. She never told me to put everyone else first. She just always did. She never told me that rest was a weakness. She just never rested. And she took those lessons from her mother, passed them down to me, and like a good student, I internalized them. And those lessons worked. I'm standing here before you as a first-generation college student, Ivy League educated, successful business owner, and I have a hot husband. By every societal metric, I was winning. But what I didn't realize is that winning was just another word for carrying. I was carrying the weight of my family, carrying the weight of my career with pride. I equated my exhaustion with effort, with pushing through with my purpose. And so I quickly went from winning to being worn out. And worn out looks like saying, I'm okay, so automatically you stop checking to see if it's true. It looks like your hair thinning and your body carrying weight because you're so stressed out. It looks like you being unable to regulate your own emotions. And that's exactly what I was feeling when I was sitting on that bathroom floor. I tried to do what I usually do, push through, keep going, but that particular night, I couldn't. And I was so confused because if my mom could handle everything, then why was I completely falling apart? So I did the only thing that made sense in that moment. I called my mom. And when she answered the phone, I tried to explain what I was feeling, but the words wouldn't come out. But she didn't need to hear the words. She heard my pain. And then something happened that has rarely happened in my life. My mom, my Superwoman, began to cry. And through her tears, she said, I am so sorry for making you think I had it all together. And in that moment, I realized that the weight I was carrying was the same weight my mother has felt because she never had permission to put it down. And there were so many women walking around carrying this weight that they actually gave it a name. Researchers call it the strong Black woman schema. And the strong Black woman schema is a cultural framework passed down from generation to generation. And it's the idea that Black women must maintain an unbreakable exterior no matter how much we carry. But I want to make something very clear. The strong Black woman schema is not a flaw. It's a blueprint for survival. And while it does have very specific histories for Black women in America rooted in systems of oppression, it's a weight I've seen carried by many cultures. It's the matriarch of the family who's not allowed to cry, or the immigrant daughter who's not allowed to fail. And it's actually a superpower to be able to remain unbreakable no matter how much we endure. And this superpower helps us navigate systems designed to erase us. But it has a cost. And scientists call this cost the allostatic load. The allostatic load is what scientists call compounded stress. It's when we've been carrying way too much for too long. Mentally, that looks like anxiety, hypervigilance, always calculating, trying to stay 1, 2, 3 steps ahead because you can't afford to be caught off guard. Physically, it looks like inflammation, elevated cortisol, a nervous system so dysregulated you don't feel safe in your own body. And the data shows that Black women carry the highest allostatic load of any other demographic in this country. And that's due to the compounded social, racial, and intergenerational stress. And because of this increased load, the data shows that Black women are on average 7.5 years biologically older than white women of the same chronological age. So let's think about that. 7.5 years. A body that's 7.5 years older doesn't just feel older. It gets sick faster. It breaks down quicker. It's the reason why Black women are being diagnosed with preeclampsia, hypertension, and heart disease in our 30s and 40s. We're not just unlucky. It's our body breaking down because of stress, intergenerational stress. And so after I had my second son, what I was feeling wasn't just postpartum depletion, it was history. It was generations of women in my body telling me to keep going. Women like my mother who never had permission to rest, telling me to push through. But that particular night, I couldn't. I didn't just want survival. I wanted sustainability. And I don't mean a bubble bath or a spa day. I wanted something to help lift the weight that I was carrying, something to help me connect back to the body underneath the Superwoman cape. And so I tried yoga. And I know here in America, yoga has a very specific aesthetic. Usually a carefree-looking, flexible, thin woman and $120 leggings drinking a green juice. And here I am, a Black woman carrying the weight of my generational trauma in my $10 leggings. But when you really think about it, what can be more revolutionary, more rebellious for a Black woman in America than to rest? And I remember starting my yoga journey and feeling stillness for the first time, like really feeling it. And I realized in that moment that pausing wasn't giving up, that pausing wasn't the opposite of strength, but it's what makes strength sustainable. I also learned santosha, a Sanskrit word meaning contentment. It's the idea that you are just enough the way you are without doing one more thing. And I went so deep into my yoga practice that I became a yoga teacher, opened my own studio, and began studying yoga therapy, not because I had all the answers, but because I wanted to give my community something more than survival. We do that well enough already. My grandmother survived injustices she never spoke about. My mother survived childhood trauma she learned to smile through. And because of that, they passed down to me their strength, their tenacity, their resilience. And Mom, I thank you. But something shifted when I began teaching yoga. The women on those mats, they are my grandmother. They are me. They are my mother. And the shift I felt wasn't in the poses. It was in the permission to slow down, the permission to rest, the permission to be enough the way you are without doing one more thing, santosha. And so now I get to teach balance, not through yoga poses, but the balance between survival and sustainability. I teach it to my community. I teach it to my sons. And I never thought I'd get the chance to teach it to the woman who taught me everything. But one day my mother walked into the studio, the woman who never rested, who never asked for help. She rolled out her mat and said, "Okay, teach me." And I've done a lot in my life, but nothing, I mean nothing, has felt like watching my mother exhale. She's held her breath so long so I can find mine. So to see the tension be released from her body, it's like she finally had permission. And that's the gift I want to give every superwoman and superman in this room today. You have already proven that you're strong enough to survive. Now give yourself permission to be well enough to live. Thank you.